and the inspector generals are watchdogs for taxpayers' dollars. And it's been estimated that we'd save $10 for every dollar spent on funding inspector generals. My budget cuts wasteful spending, closes loopholes, and does one more thing.
There's something wrong with your brain.
We've got to hold these platforms accountable for the national experiment they're conducting on our children for profit. Later this week, senators will debate legislation.
Sinner.
It prevents people from getting the care they need. Now insurance companies are going to have to measure how often they require prior authorization. We've also launched a nationwide crisis hotline, 988. Let me say it again.
Yeah, 220, 221, whatever it takes.
Many people will have to seek mental health care at some point in their lives. Whether you're in a red state, a blue state, it doesn't matter. Mental health care can be life-changing. Their networks of providers are badly inadequate, with far fewer psychiatrists, therapists, and other mental health professionals compared to all other medical specialties. We end cancer as we know it.
Say what?
Deliver on our sacred obligations to veterans was the second thing I think is critically important. Thirdly was beat the opioid epidemic. But today, on what we've been, would have been Emmett's 82nd birthday.
That's not my name.
That's a remarkable thing, it seems to me. Insisting on an open casket. Not a single one of them, not a single Republican voted for the Inflation Reduction Act, which had all this money in it for climate, which provides funding to combat climate change. For the farm workers who have to harvest crops in the dead of night.
They're super cops.
And so thank you, and I mean it. Don't hesitate to contact any of the departments standing behind me. We have some of the funds. We're going to get more to deal with the impacts of future droughts that are made all this more extreme heat more consequential. We're delivering over $20 billion from the bipartisan infrastructure law to upgrade the electric grid to withstand stronger storms. But we got to get through this crisis in the near term, and we got to keep people safe.
Don't say people. I'm doing business here, man.
The Department of Housing and Urban Development is providing billions to communities to make buildings more efficient. As we get by this worst part, that we're able to invest in the communities to keep it from happening as badly next time it occurs.
That's so odd. It's odd.
Paint the roofs white, to change their windows and doors and get tax credits for doing it. As you heard today, we have a lot more work to do. I look forward to working with not just these two wonderful mayors. And those states where they do not, I'm going to be calling them out, where they refuse to protect these workers. In this awful heat.
Why is he got to say it all poetic like that?
Last month, 2 years after I made Juneteenth a federal holiday, the first new federal holiday since Dr. Martin Luther King Day, nearly 40 years ago, I hosted a Juneteenth Congress at the White House.
A Juneteenth Congress at the White House.
I know it begins with a C.
Let us reflect and repair. Let us rise to the occasion and redeem the soul of this nation. Treat each other with decency and respect.
Treat each other with decency and respect.
I also got confirmed 2 4-star generals that lead our combatant commands.
Our combatant commands.
Once the most simple and the most powerful idea in the history of the world, that we're all created equal, endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights.
We're certain inalienable rights.
I didn't understand a one word you said.
I knew I was going to be president when Jim Clyburn went ahead and endorsed me. He wanted to be here tonight, but he's traveling to the Indo-Pacific to strengthen our security ties in the region. Secretary Lloyd Austin.
Claude, have mercy.
Condemning segregation and outlining, I should say, changes in law and policy. And folks, these two points are not unrelated.
That sounded naughty.
But being a student of history, we have and always will have the strongest, toughest grading force fighting force in the history of the world. And I might add, the most diverse fighting force in the history of the world. It's time for service members. It's time for service members to receive the pay and promotions they've earned and deserve. An American Army captain rides alongside an all-white regiment heading to the front lines. The son of a slave state, the grandson of slain owners, saying it's becoming weak, soft, and less capable. We hear it from the senior senator from Missouri.
There's that word again.
We now know a big part of that reason for inflation was the pandemic, the war in Ukraine, broken supply chains, and excess profits. All hitting pocketbooks hard while padding corporate profits.
Holy shit.
So we went to work, getting our company back on track, fixing those supply chains. And they gave you what they thought was necessary, not what your product was worth. Having these facilities close by means farmers. When the pandemic hit, all of a sudden we could get those little computer chips about the size of the tip of my little finger. Well, guess what? You need about 300 of them to build an automobile.
You ever get tired of being wrong? I do. I really do, but I'm tired.
And that law says that when the federal government spends your tax dollars, $659 billion for infrastructure, for the environment. But I made a commitment when I ran that I'd be president for everybody, whether they voted for me or against me. The vast majority of all this money.
That actually was pretty funny.
They don't wonder about it anymore. You know, when the ocean officers say to Delaware, oh, we're off of Florida. Take the Verzo Mill, Bucksport, founded in 1829. Well, because of what's going to happen here, it's not going to happen. Bio-based products are the future of Maine.
My brain is like oatmeal.
40 years of trickle-down economic limited that dream to the very top. But I leave every American willing to work should be able to get a job. We've attracted almost $500 billion.
This isn't monopoly money we're playing with.
You've had a lot of experience, and you can apply a little bit of wisdom. It's really critical.
Yeah.
And by the way, there's a selfie sax bet to it. I got to know all the conductors so well, they became friends. And one day, as vice president, I was going home on the train, which the Secret Service doesn't like. Because there's so many opportunities to interrupt the train.
Damn it! Who typed a question mark on the teleprompter? For the last time, anything you put on that prompter, Burgundy will read.